Sometimes it's hard to express yourself, but these days it's become even harder to be true to yourself. I believe there is a thin line of difference between individualism and narcissism. You must be thinking, why am I talking about this here? Because I've admitted to being a free spirited soul earlier. But when I look back and take stock, it does look like I've always done what has kindled my mind. Hi, I'm Kunal Vijayakar and I'm a broadcaster, actor, YouTuber, food writer, and I'm forever hungry. Amongst the things I have done in my life, I studied art at the JJ School of Art. I spent 11 years in advertising. I've acted in plays, performed at children's birthday parties, hosted events, directed a film, hosted a food show that has run for 9 years, and I've done a TV show that has run for 15 years and is still running. I've put on weight, I've lost weight, I've put on weight again and continue to do so every few years. I grew up in South Mumbai and had a fairly comfortable life. No stories of great hardship or struggle here. Although one never knows how circumstances affect you when you are a child. Now, when I look back, I can try and identify things that may have happened to me in my early years, which may have left a large impact on where life has taken me. I like to look upon those things, those unfortunate things and incidents, as incidents that actually turned my life around. Maybe, just maybe, for the better. I was 6 years old when my father passed away. And since I was so young, I couldn't feel or understand the amount of loss that had occurred in our lives. All I was aware was that my mother had two young children to look after, me, 6 years old, and my younger sister, 2 years old. But with support from her family, my grandparents, her own courage, she never let us feel the lack of anything at all. Be it education, holidays, food, eating out, clothes, entertainment, movies, dinners, anything at all. My father, who passed away, worked for Mazgon Docks, which is a shipbuilding yard in Mumbai. We lived in a closed, gated community at the docks. Everyone there was a shippy, everybody was out at sea. The sea and ships were just a few meters away from where we lived. We watched ships being built, we watched them being launched, we played games about ships, we built model ships, I even drew ships. And a lot of my friends there did grow up and finally go out to sea. The chances are I would have as well. Though today I cannot imagine being on a ship, working in the engine room, out at sea for months. I don't even have the aptitude. But life had other plans. My father passed away and we moved out of Mazgon Docks to Marine Drive to my grandparents' home. And that chapter ended there and the ships sailed away. Life changed. Influences changed. Strangely, food became an integral part of my life. My grandfather's influence and interests rubbed off me. Food, from the very beginning, was already a big part of my life. My mother and both my grandmothers were amazing cooks, but both my grandfathers were diabolically in love with food. And not just our usual meals, the extravagant dishes that one would just hear of in books, restaurants, and movies. We went out, we ate out, we went to restaurants, we went to the club every Saturday. That was the routine, that was our family thing, that was our culture, eating out. Ships and engineering were left far behind. Also, art surrounded me. I started drawing more. I explored other interests like acting, costume, makeup, sets, all on an amateur level. Theatre or school drama had become almost the greatest place for me to not only show my self-expression, but also to develop and discover someone who I hadn't even met yet, myself. Sketching and drawing were my safe space. Life had changed, and I actually liked the change that happened in my life. As far as studies were concerned, I was shambolic in studies. I was so bad that I could make out I had no successful future in academics whatsoever. So I thought, why not pursue something that I actually love doing, acting? But I was a spoiled kid with middle class values of security and stability. Who wanted to go bouncing from one audition to another, waiting to get the part and struggling? What better way to find a vocation that was already stable and steady? So I set my mind on joining something a little more stable and steady, which is catering college, because I like to cook, or work in a hotel and all that, or join architecture, join a school of architecture, pursue a creative field. So I decided that I'd do my 11th standard science, although I hated science. I hated mathematics. But I required 12th standard science to join a catering college or architecture college in those days. In the 10th standard, I had got a bare minimum marks in the three sciences. Okay, that's at the ICSE. Exams for taking science, and the only reason I managed to get admission was that the principal of the college was my mother's ex-professor, and he just, I think, pitied my situation, my marks. But then again, he gave me admission, but then again, life had other plans. Trust me, everything went wrong. I did very badly because I had no interest in science. Even today, I find it so difficult to do things I'm not interested in. I just find it difficult, and I find there's no point in wasting my efforts when I know I'm putting them half-heartedly just for the sake of it in things that I have no interest in. So I failed, or in more polite words, I ducked my 12th standard HSC. Not once, but twice. I just couldn't get my head around the physics and the math. Until today, I make mistakes with numbers. So much so that even with a calculator, I'm terrible. I make mistakes with a calculator. That's how bad I am. So what was the option I had? I had to pursue my other interests, food and art. Or maybe the only other good thing I was at, which is art, really. And so I started seeking a college that would give me admission based on my 10th standard marks, because I had such bad marks in the 11th standard. I managed to appear for the entrance exam at the JJ School of Art. What you needed was a 10th standard pass, and I got admission for the Bachelor of Fine Art course, Applied Art or Commercial Art as we call it in those days. There, I studied and trained to go into advertising. Advertising, again, something that was creative and design related. I could see myself doing it in the future, making a job of it, earning a salary. And I now thank my stars that I failed my HSC, because whatever happened to me next wasn't part of my plan. It just happened, and I went with the flow, and I'm just so glad where it has taken me, where it took me, and what I do today. I'm a firm believer that sometimes bad things in life turn out to be good for you in a way that you can only comprehend in the future. So after completing my college, that's JJ, I started with an advertising agency called Deconas, and I had quite a good time doing it. I met the most fascinating man over there, the boss and the owner of the agency, called Sylvester Decuna. Our firm there had a very strong theatre culture. My boss did plays in his off time. He was quite famous. Also, our CEO, Dabholkar, in those days, he did plays as well. So when Sylvie Decuna wanted to cast a Maharashtrian in a play, he asked me if I would be a part of it. And I obviously said yes. That's when I started doing acting seriously and regularly, and doing theatre regularly. So we did plays in the evening. In the day, I wrote advertising campaigns. And one of my favorite advertising campaigns were the Amul Butter ads, which we wrote and the agency handled. And they are so iconic because of the situational, topical humor that is created over current affairs. Along with that, I also used to write a comedy column for the Times of India. Later on, the editor spoke to me about converting that same comedy column into a food column. So there was comedy, acting, theatre, and food. And although I was no professional in food or journalism, I just started writing because I love food and my own experience about food. And I started talking about some great food and insane recipes and food habits and trends. Suffice to say, I was very content by now with my personal life, my professional life. I was writing, I was designing, so everything I really wanted to do was happening for me. It was the most wonderful time of my life, and my all my interests were getting tested frequently. I also met my closest friends in theatre, friends who I work with, who I holiday with, and also spend most of my time with till today. From then, with time, I started getting television work, which I continue doing on the side, soon realizing that I was making more money and having more fun doing acting and television than advertising. So I quit and I started doing television full time, acting that is. Then came the show, The Foodie on Times Now. It wasn't just a cookery show, but it was a platform to showcase different styles of cuisines and food. And I was the host, I was the one tasting all the food, and I'm also getting paid for it. What better life can you ask for? This is how my journey began in the industry, in the food business, in the television business, still going on. One more life disaster had turned into a positive thing. My bad luck was actually my good luck. One other thing that stayed with me from my advertising days and the Amul butter advertising was my love for topical humor. It's just brilliant to be able to comment sometimes on topical subjects, crack jokes about them. And that is how I got to be part of a show called The Week That Wasn't, which I do with Cyrus Brocha, where I play outrageously exaggerated characters and he hosts. We've been doing it for the last 15 years. We've written this show together, and we have a team that has stayed with us all this time. As an offshoot of all this, I even tried directing a feature film, and I did. When we were approached by a renowned journalist and film producer called Pritish Nandi, he came up with this idea about making a feature film with the kind of humor that we were using on The Week That Wasn't. Finally, things may not have worked out with Mr. Nandi, but I did get together with Brocha and make this film. Friends I had made along the way, friends I had made along the way through theatre and live, Cyrus Brocha, Baman Irani, all came through and were part of this film. The film, however, flopped miserably. Maybe Fruit and Nut, the film I directed, was a bit ahead of its time, or maybe it was not a good film, maybe it was a bad film, maybe I was not a good director, maybe I was a bad director. And I honestly think I'm not a great script writer for films as well. And as I said, I don't like doing things that I don't think I'm good at, I don't have a temperament for, so I've decided I'm not going to try that again. I'm going to stick to what excites me, and that is food, and that's comedy, and that's news. The future, of course, as you all know, is in the digital medium, and I've taken my first step with a food channel on YouTube called Khane Mein Kya Hai. I should have done this 8 or 9 years ago, but what the hell? It's better late than never. The channel is hardly 9 months old. We've already got over 160,000 subscribers organically. My food videos average at about 3 to 4 lakh views. Some videos have touched a couple of million and more. I'm just loving it. I'm just loving it. It's in my control. I like what I'm doing. I get to travel, discover places, new foods, meet interesting people, and hopefully make a few bucks along the way. Honestly, what more do you need? I've got this and I don't need much more. I take a small step back and I just want to be there. I don't want to stop working, but I want to focus on the things that bring me joy. Like painting, maybe a bit more, maybe doing a little more theatre. Oddly, isn't that what I have always done through my life? Done whatever pleased me, what I felt comfortable doing. God, you must be thinking this, that I started off saying I'm an individualistic and I'm an individualist and not a narcissist. But all I've done is talk about myself, me, myself. But I'm trying to make a point. The point being that the only constant thing in life is change. My life changed and I tried to make the best of it. I could not control the changes, but I tried my best to embrace the change and move forward. My life is changing even today. My friends are changing. The work is changing. My body is changing. Even the pandemic has changed everything. The way we meet, the way we eat, the way we work, everything has changed. But we must roll with the punches, accepting the changes and exploring new avenues. So, two lessons that I've learned along the way. Embrace every situation that is thrown at you. You will be stressed. You will be worried. And you will panic. But you will prevail. And secondly, as someone wise said, the first step of being happy in life is to be true to oneself, which means being completely honest with what you feel, deeply value and desire, irrespective of whether you tell others or not, whether they know your true self or not, as long as you know your true self, most important. And you need to cultivate a deep and trusting relationship with yourself. To thine self be true. So it is up to you, each of us, to be courageous enough to bring forth our own truth, expressing it fully and wholeheartedly, first with yourself and then, if you want, with others. Ignite the truth in yourself and you will be on fire. Thank you very much.